So today I'm going to give you one of the secrets that you'll need in order to find the right girlfriend or life partner. But a little warning, it's not going to be what you want to hear. It's not going to be what you expect, but it's definitely what you need. Now, most men who have achieved a certain degree of success in their life, be it in their business or their career, are usually quite proud of that. They're quite proud of the difficulties they've overcome. They're quite proud of the discipline they've developed. They're just quite proud of the man they are. Not perfectly, but at least in the area of their job or their business, be it computer scientists, engineers, people who work in finance, various business owners. And you should be proud. You should feel confident in that area. Now, the problem that a lot of people have, that a lot of men have, especially between the age of 30 and 50, is a massive ego. I know, because I used to suffer from a massive ego as well. And me having a massive ego, me thinking that I already knew everything there is to know about dating or relationships, led to me getting married and also divorced, because there was just a complete utter lack of compatibility. I didn't know how important compatibility was in a relationship. It led to years of suffering for myself and for my ex-wife. So, what I'd like to talk to you about today is the importance of having an open mind and learning. The first metaphor I'd like to give you is a martial arts related metaphor, because I was learning martial arts from a very early age on. One of the first arts that I learned was judo. And I remember very vividly when I went to my first tournament. Now, I was scared, especially, you might not know about this, but what usually happens during judo tournaments is every club brings a couple of people, gathers a group, 5, 10, 15, sometimes 20 people, and drives to the tournament. So they go there as a team. So even though you're competing as an individual, you're there with your team. Now, I come from a very small cow town in the west of Germany, so this club that we were training in was super small, so nobody else went to that tournament. So I went there with my teacher, my sensei, my instructor. She must have been at the time, I don't know, she must have been 28 or something, an amazing woman. I was, 11 or something, or 10. And I was very nervous about going there, okay? So we drive there, she's encouraging me. Not only was she super skilled, the black belt, but not that every black belt is skilled, but in judo having a black belt usually means something. So we get there and I'm quite nervous when we enter the hall. There's a lot of people in there, a lot of people warming up. I only had, I believe, an orange belt or a yellow belt at the time, so the bare minimum that you had to have in order to compete, in order to be allowed to compete at such tournaments. And I'm quite nervous. I'm just standing there looking around, feeling pressure, a very similar type of pressure that men feel when they go to bars or nightclubs or even social circle events at a friend's house. You're afraid that people are going to look at you. You're afraid that you're going to get judged for voicing your opinion. You're afraid that somebody's going to see you being there alone. That's one of the biggest fears men actually have, even though they're not aware of it at all. They have a fear that somebody's going to catch them standing there by themselves. And I used to have that. Like, I remember in school when we moved from the west to the east, quick little side note before I go back to the martial arts story. I remember that when we moved from the west of Germany to the east, I didn't have any friends for the first year, so I would hide myself in the bathroom sometimes. Not all the time, but during the lunch breaks, I'd hide myself in the bathroom because I wouldn't want anybody to see that I didn't have any friends. So after the first year, somehow I copped on and gathered skills, and I discerned the dynamics of the situation a little bit better in order to be able to get some friends and develop some level of social skills, because I wasn't even able to get friends at that stage, okay? So going back to the hall, the first tournament, she comes to me and she tells me, David, relax, everything's fine. They're warming up, everybody else is nervous as well. Go warm up, I'm gonna go talk to the administrator because I gotta talk about some stuff, and I'm gonna be back in a few minutes. So I start warming up, and even just the fact that she was there with me gave me a huge degree of confidence. So I started warming up, started prepping myself, and in my mind, the fact that she supported me, she was like 28 or something, so for me she was a grown woman, I was 11 at the time. And all the other people were like kids, my age, a little bit older, some of them younger. The fact that I had her encouragement, I could look up to her, and I was like admiring her because of her skills, her technical skills, her attitude, super kind, super positive, yet expecting a degree of discipline and performance. So the fact that she encouraged me that did a lot for me. And if you look at the word encouragement, where the word encouragement actually comes from, it means courage, comes from la cœur, the heart. So you reach people at the heart. You give them, in my interpretation, it means something along the lines of you help them to get back into the competence of their heart. Gunter Schmidt talks about getting back into your own zone of competence. So she helped me feel more confident because the environment, the hall, did not make me insecure. And you may be wondering, what the hell does judo have to do with my relationship and dating life? I get it. We're going to get there. We're going to come full circle in a minute. So I'm there in this environment, and first I feel a little bit insecure. I get a little bit of her guidance and reassurance, and my perception of the reality of the situation changed completely. So then I have my first fight, my very first fight at my very first tournament. I'm nervous as shit, heart beating, sweating, and then there's this guy, he's like getting ready, whoops, he's jumping around, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm nervous. I had training sparring fights in my home club, but nothing like that. And this guy, she's looking at me, she's like, you got this. And by the way, before I had the first fight, she told me, David, I expect you to get gold. I expect you to get gold, and if you get gold, we're gonna go to McDonald's as a reward, or Burger King, I'm not sure. So I was like, I want to go to McDonald's. Not even because of the burger, but because it would have been such an honor for me to go there with her, my teacher, okay? So this guy comes running at me, and I couldn't think, because he runs at me. Usually you don't do that in judo, usually people go a little bit faster. I panicked a bit, but my mind went blank, and what I did is I turned my hip, boom, and I threw him over my shoulder, not over my shoulder, over my hip. In judo that's called ogoshi, a throw that's called big hip, and I crashed into him. So you lift the person up and you smash yourself with them into the ground. Sometimes ribs break, can be quite a violent sport, but if the person knows how to fall, he knew that he had to exhale before the land, before the impact, so his lungs nor his ribs wouldn't get damaged. And what happens in judo, if you throw somebody and they land on their back, it's called ippon, and you win the fight immediately. If he lands on his side, then you have to hold him down for 20, 30, or 40 seconds, I don't quite remember, and then you win the fight. So I win my first fight within the first 10 seconds. Now I'm completely hyped, still nervous, and she's sitting on the side, she's like, yeah, amazing, well done. So the lesson I want you to take away from this is, one, I was open-minded enough to listen to her guidance, and also I had enough training that an unconscious level of competence kicked in. Because you know the 4 zones of competence. First, you have an unconscious incompetence. Most men may not even be aware that they're lacking a certain skill set. Communication, dating, how to build attraction, all that good stuff. Okay? Then you realize, oh, if you're watching this video, you probably realize that you're lacking a skill set, which is fine because it's just a skill set. There's nothing wrong with you. And then, once you realize that you have a conscious incompetence, you then develop into the area of conscious competence. And a conscious competence means, okay, I know what I'm doing. I'm talking in a nightclub, on a date, I know what I'm doing. I'm doing this line, I'm following this process, if you have one, right? If you want to learn how to do that, apply for a first free coaching call with the link underneath this video. And we'll give you an exact plan on how you can find the right girlfriend and life partner, how you can develop a conscious competence and then also an unconscious competence. So you're on the date, I know what I'm saying, I know now I have to do this, I know the guy comes, I have to throw him. But since I've been practicing for, I don't know, a year or two at that stage, before I was allowed to go to my first tournament, I had the unconscious competence from the sparring fights and the training sessions that even though I was nervous, even though it was the first time in a completely new environment, I had my teacher there and I was able to throw the person onto the ground, not even consciously, but the unconscious competence took over and I was able to win the fight within the first 10 seconds. I actually fought 4 fights. I believe I won 3 out of 4. 1 I lost, and I actually got gold that day. And I drove to McDonald's and I drove to Burger King with my instructor. And for some reason, one weird funny thing that I remember, she had her boyfriend, okay? And I just take, it's such a menial thing, it's gonna mean nothing to you, but it stood out for me for some reason. Because I finished my burger, obviously I believe only the patty because I'm gluten intolerant, so I'm not allowed to eat the bread. And I fold the plastic and I just put it on her. Like I had my tray, right? You know, in Burger King, everybody has their own tray. I put it in her tray and I look at her and she's like, and she smiled. I don't know why, but that moment stuck out to me, but there was a degree of pride in her eyes. I was like, wow, I almost wanted to win the fight more for her than for myself. Now again, a very valid question. What does that have to do with your dating and your relationship life? There's a lot of people from my club that could have gone to that tournament if they had been more open-minded to, one, train more beforehand, and second, to listen to her guidance. Now, in your dating and your relationship life, you may think, oh, things aren't as bad. I'm not doing so bad, because there's only 2 types of people you got to keep in mind. One, men who have trouble getting dates at all, and the other category of men who are maybe getting 20, 30, 40 dates within the last 6 months, but they're unable to get the right kind of women. Or they get the right kind of women onto the date, but they change their communication unconsciously. They don't even know, you might not even know what you're doing wrong, but you're not able to go home with her, start a relationship with her. Remember, for me, this is not about teaching you how to have sex with as many women as possible. That is not what I stand for. Now, having dates and having intimacy is definitely an enjoyable part of the whole process, but it's just part of the process. The end goal is having somebody with whom you can go to the sea in Dublin, somebody that can cook dinner for you, you can cook dinner for her, somebody that you can share your life with, somebody that you can build something for the long term with. Now, what I see with a lot of people who, especially the ones who don't make it into the coaching program, because the people who do end up joining the coaching program, they've gotten over their ego to an extent, you know? They've gotten, and ego simply means, oh, there's various different definitions of ego. Ego can just be the self, but in that sense, it's I already know. I know what's best for me. Not admitting that you're lacking knowledge in a certain area. And what you have to understand is that in whatever area of your life where you've been able to generate a degree of success, 99% of the time, it's because you were open-minded enough to receive feedback from an external source. Be it Google, a coach, a mentor, your parents, an uncle, a judo teacher. Okay? Now there's some people like Elon Musk, completely independently they create their own company. Okay? But even then, probably not completely independently, because I don't know how many engineers he has working for him. Okay? He talks about this idea where he wanted to hire somebody else as chief engineer of the rocket, but since he couldn't find anybody, because the bad ones, there was no point in hiring them and the good ones wouldn't join. So he ended up being chief engineer of the rocket. But he's a bit of an alien, okay? For 99% of us, we need to be open to external feedback in order to make any kind of progress in any area. Be it in your business. I'm sure if you're a business owner, you've had mentors, you've had people who helped you with your supply chain, with marketing, with sales, with fulfillment, okay? Even if it's just Joe, who has a very similar business model, but he lives 300 kilometers away. Let's say you're a computer scientist, oops. Frickin' flies. Let's say you're a computer scientist or a mechanical engineer. You've been at least open-minded enough to learn from YouTube videos. It's super important to understand that the same applies in dating and relationships. It is a learnable skill set. You can learn how to get more dates. I have another video where I break down very clearly the 8 channels that we're using in my coaching program in order to find the right person, because it is about getting a lot of options in order to then qualify hard, to not waste your time with the wrong people, be able to express yourself honestly on the date. That's one of those things as well. Men oftentimes think that they already know how to express themselves genuinely on the date, but there's so many mistakes they're making that they're not even aware of. I mean, it's called a blind spot for a reason. I know I'm hammering this idea today, but it's super important to make you aware of it, because in other areas in business and your career, you're already aware of it, but you may be, let's take something practical. For example, right, I had a coaching call yesterday with a client of mine, and he was talking about this idea that he went to a party, a friend circle, right, and he had a conversation with, I'm trying to remember the whole story, and he had a conversation with a lady and with a girl, and it was going well, and they were even kissing, and then there was this one drunk guy, and he was causing problems. So he's a pretty tall dude. So he walks up there and he throws the guy out. Now, this girl, she walks back to her friends, and he wanted to continue the night with her, right? He wanted to continue on, maybe explore what's possible, consensual, of course, but see what goes. And so the way he told me the story, he was originally like, yeah, so I want to continue the night, but that didn't work because one drunk guy fucked that up for me. But anyway, we're texting now, and I interrupted him like, excuse me, seconds. Hang on, stop. You're skipping super important parts. What happened? Yeah, so this party, this drunk guy caused problems. 2 seconds. What happened? Step by step breakdown. Then it turned out, okay, there was this. He was talking to her, drunk guy caused problems. He had to kick her out. She went back to her girls because everybody was excited. Everybody was like, oh, what's going on? Right? Everybody was like, oh my goodness. Right? Even the girls, they were talking among themselves because there was a bit of violence in the air. People get excited if violence is in the air. Not that I condone violence, it's not great, but as we as human beings find violence, like a gladiator, at least exciting to a certain extent. So she was back with her friends, and he said he wasn't able to get her back into the conversation with him. Now, obviously, you're never supposed to force her. You're obviously supposed to be respectful. And I'm like, okay, hang on a second. And we go down one layer deeper. What happened? What did you say? And then he walked over, and it turns out that he said, something like that, oh, let's continue the conversation. over there, do you want to continue the conversation? And she says, no, like in a few minutes, I'm just busy talking here. And then he said, okay, and he left it. Instead of kindly and gently and respectfully persisting, at least for a little while, he said, okay, and he walked away. Now, the way you persist, it still has to be calibrated. So instead of going there and saying, 2 seconds, let's walk over there. 2 seconds. No, I'm going to show you something. 2 seconds. You extend your hand, you have a big bright smile on your face, not pushy at all, giving her space. You're saying 2 seconds. And that increases, it's just one out of countless techniques, because we teach at mindset strategy as well as at the technical level, that you can use in order to keep the conversation going. Because it's just 2 seconds. Because the investment for her in that very moment is so much smaller. Because if you just say, let's go continue the conversation, in her mind, where she's just talking to her friends, she's getting excitement from talking to her friends about the potential of violence that was up in the room there. Walk into the room with him would have constituted a really big investment. Remember, you don't want to put her in a position where you expect a lot of investment from her, because that's going to reduce the probability that she's going to go there with you. So baby step it, make it easy, right? There's countless ways. And he wasn't even aware of that, okay? Now, things are going extraordinarily well for him, and he's going to meet her again. But in this very moment, there was a blind spot he didn't even know he had. He just brushed over the story. In his mind, it was the drunk guy who messed things up. Now, he didn't have any ego. When I said 2 seconds, he listened. And I'm sometimes quite straightforward. I'm like, no. 2 seconds. Let's talk about this. What's the actual issue here? Explain to me the step-by-step process, okay? And in our group coaching calls, that's exactly what we do. We go extraordinarily deep into each and everybody's blind spots in order to create a solution. So be it in martial arts or in business, there's always a degree of humility involved. And a lot of people think that I'm incredibly arrogant. I'm probably the least arrogant person. I myself spend extraordinary amounts. I probably last year spent myself somewhere between 50 and 70,000 euros on coaching and mentoring myself, okay, in various areas, be it business, personal development, not in the area of dating, because that's where I'm the expert, right? So it's super important that you understand that if you want a certain result, if you want to have somebody in your life, if you want to have a family, then you got to let go of your ego. You can either have your ego or you can have great results. And if you want to learn how you can find a girlfriend or a life partner in detail, if you want a step-by-step plan, if you want to be able to let go of your mindset issues, then apply for a first free coaching call with the link underneath this video. And we're going to look at your individual situation. We're going to look at your blind spots. We're going to look at what you're doing well, what you should be doing more of. We're going to look at what we're doing less. And we're going to look at the system, because there's always two components. There's a system that people go through, step by step, okay, that men go through. And there's also a component of one-on-one work in a group format that's absolutely required, or in one-on-one, depending, in order to solve mindset issues. Because some of it is technical and strategic, and the other side is mindset. And if you are humble enough, and open-minded enough in order to receive some guidance, then I'd be looking forward to helping you. So apply for a first free coaching call right now.